types of guys. That unforgettable fight in 1973, and then had the fight, one of the biggest fights of all time, if not the biggest fight of all time, with Muhammad Ali and Zaire. So, and then he had that upset loss to Jimmy Young. Had the apparition in the change rooms. I think that's what it's called. I hope I haven't said apparition. I think the vision of Jesus, I think it was, or God, in the change rooms, changed his life forever. Went to being a reverend, and for 10 years we didn't see him. He was pretty much out of view. He was definitely out of boxing, and carved out a new life as a reverend. And in 1987 he came back, and I still remember his debut, let's say his pro debut of his second career, and the second coming, and I remember I think his name was Steve Zowski or something like that, his name was, and it was this pretty much big, fat, cumbersome, giant that was just sort of hunting this guy, slowly trying to hunt down this club fighter, and he really struggled. He did end up getting him out of there, but it was pretty much a bit of a, well, these days it'd be a meme, a joke, go viral for all the wrong reasons, and no one gave him any hope of sort of getting his career back on track. It was sort of seen as a bit of a novelty, I suppose, and something to get out of his system. And he kept winning. And he kept fighting regularly. I mean, he was fighting every month or two. I mean, he really, when they say dedicated himself, I'm not sure exactly how many fights he had in those first couple of years, often, and was winning. And yeah, most of them were club fighters and journeymen and all the rest of it. But he kept winning and winning and winning, and got to the point. I remember when he fought probably his most credible guy in his comeback, if you can call him that, was Jerry Cooney. And he obliterated him in 2 rounds as well, just like Joe Fraser, and it was a stunning knockout. And then he got his opportunity, the heavyweight championship. And even though he was beaten in that fight, what a performance it was. The amount of shots and bombs that he took from Evander Holyfield would have knocked out anybody, but he stood tall, he stood tough, and he lasted the 12 rounds, and I think that's when we thought we'd see the end of him. And he came back and won the heavyweight championship in one of the biggest upsets of all time in 1994 against Michael Moorer. Who can forget that shot? The shot that was heard around the world. He was behind on points. He knew he could get to Moorer. He just needed to land that shot, and he did in the 10th round. That right hand straight down the middle, and down went Moorer. And we had a new heavyweight champion at the age of 45. And he never, I don't think he didn't lose a title in the ring. I think he gave up one of the belts, didn't he, or was stripped or whatever, but he won the belts at 45. Went to HBO Boxing. He was a great commentator on there as well, and everything that he did in boxing, forget that, geez. He made more money out of that girl than he made out of boxing. It was crazy. But what more can you say about George? You'll never hear anyone, and I've never heard anyone say a bad word about George Foreman, ever. And when he was a fighter, he was intimidating. He was an angry man, and everyone was in the that generation. But then his second coming, he was the exact opposite, a big, gentle giant, and everyone loved him. So he will be missed. So rest in peace, George Foreman. Now, another fighter of my generation that sort of slipped on the radar yesterday actually passed away as well, which was another shock, because at the age of 64, Livingston Bramble also passed away. And again, with all the news about George Foreman, as I said, it did slip through the cracks a little bit, but who can forget Livingston Bramble back in the mid-80s? A very, very well-renowned world champion. He upset Ray Mancini in I think it was 1984. Repeated the dose in the rematch. I think in the first fight he stopped him in, I think it was the 13th round or 14th round. And in the rematch won a one-sided 15-round decision. Then he was supposed to fight Hector Camacho to unify the lightweight title. They appeared on the same bill in 1986. Camacho got and Rosario plans by making light work of Livingston Bramble in 2 rounds. Big upset at the time. Not so much in hindsight, because Edmund Rosario is one of the greats, and had lost a controversial decision to and didn't really recover after that. We also probably remember him coming to Australia. He fought Costa Zoo, and I'm pretty sure he fought Shannon Taylor as well, from memory. So is that right? I can't remember. He definitely fought Costa Zoo and was beaten by Costa. He also fought the likes of Roger Mayweather and, as I said, Rosario, and a very, very good fighter back in his day. Very strange, quirky guy, but sort of my era growing up, and it's like, geez, wow, at 64 years of age. Not good. Anyway, but again, with the same as Livingston Bramble, rest in peace to him, and condolences to his family as well. So not a great day for the boxing world yesterday. But in better news last night, George Kambosos got the job done over Jake Whyllie. Now, it was an okay card. Look, I couldn't really get a gauge of the crowd, and I think they did a very, very good job with the cameraman of disguising the crowd. It was in darkness. You saw a few little glimpses. I know I shouldn't have been looking for it, but I couldn't help but look at the crowd with what I've heard about it. And they did. Look, I will say they did a good job with the cameras, but also probably getting everyone down around ringside, because it actually did look like a pretty good crowd. The proof was in the pudding with the sound, though, with the applause and stuff. There was a few loud moments on the card, but you could really tell that it wasn't a big crowd in attendance. But either way, they seemed happy with the event afterwards. The press conference with Eddie and George and Jake. So as long as they're happy, I suppose we're happy. But the card itself, look, as expected. Look, I will say again, probably don't take much notice of my tips, because I've got a few wrong. Well, I've got a few right too, but yeah, the first card, we'll have a quick look at the undercard before we go into the main stuff. So, so Jordan Buwan with a 4-round decision over Jordan Casaliris. That was pretty predictable. Then we had even more predictable Hemi Ohio, or Ohio, I think it is, with a first-round knockout of the tie. I said in the preview yesterday I'd be staggered if it went past about a minute. It might have lasted a bit longer, but that fight was embarrassing. Should have never been made. And it ended exactly the way we thought it would. Then we got to, this is the surprise one, Iman Katayev with a 10-round decision over, hang on, come here, buddy. Come here. Come here. Little Neil, kind of, there's my... He just wanders and he's okay, but he's just looking at the road there. So yeah, Iman Katayev with a super tough 10-round decision over Derval Palacio. How tough was this guy? Now the final scores were pretty one-sided in the end, but 99-89, 98-90, 99-89. So very, very one-sided. Katayev goes to 10-0. Palacio dropped to 14-4. But I tell you what, that Palacio, he's welcome back here in Australia anytime. He was tough. Now, I thought in the first 2 or 3 rounds it was going to go the way I thought, and he was going to get knocked out. I think he did get dropped. What round was that? Was it the middle round somewhere? But he dug deep. And I thought he got the best of Kataev, or what, I'm not sure how to pronounce that properly. I'll call him Kataev. They're all pronouncing it different last night. But geez, did he expose Kataev for maybe not being the fighter we thought he was, or did Kataev just take him a little bit easy? Because Palacio, he gave as good as he got, and he took some massive shots, but he hung in there. He rocked Kataev numerous times, busted him up. This is one tough fella. Both guys, actually, because Kataev, I think, was probably expected to wipe him out. As I said, I expected him to do it. And he hung in there, hung tough. And I think Kataev won the fight, make no mistake, but geez, a couple of times I thought that Kataev was in a lot of trouble. And I thought, we're going to get an upset here. This is the last thing they all need after the build-up and, you know, the lack of crowd numbers and everything else going on, the pull-outs of Jordan, and it's been a nightmare week for everyone concerned. This is the last thing they want as one of their main hopes going forward, being beaten by someone that's supposed to just come out and be an easy kill for him. But it was a tough fight, a really, really good fight. I really enjoyed it. And Kataev getting the decision there. And again, I'll ask the question, is he a little bit overrated? Or was just a bit of a blip where he underestimated the guy, punched himself out early, and the guy was a lot tougher than he thought. He hung in there and then come back later in the fight. But both boys really busted up, but Kataev, he looked the worst for wear. And a few times the doctor was actually looking at his eyes, and at one stage I thought he might stop this fight. And I don't think there was an accidental head clash ruled for the eye, the swollen eye. So if it had been stopped, then Palacio would have been the winner. So I'm sure they would have found a technicality to make it a technical draw or something. You know they would have found something, but thankfully we didn't get to that. But a really, really good fight. Then we got into the girls. And Shanika Johnson, look, I did tip Nina Hughes to win the fight, but credit where credit is due. And Shanika Johnson with a fantastic make a statement, as they say. But Nina Hughes, gee, she looked all of her 42 years all of a sudden, didn't she? Just didn't really get off. She looked slow. She looked a little awkward. She was getting tagged. Didn't help that she got busted up a little bit early. She had a bit of blood and everything on her face. And but all things aside, I mean, Shanika Johnson put a big exclamation mark on the two fights the girls have had, and yeah, I was very impressed with Shanika. Probably she spoils her work a little bit sometimes, I will say. She tends to fall on top of her opponent and doesn't really give herself room to work. She comes in, she's got good technique, good jab, you know, good punches on the inside, but I just think sometimes she does negate herself when she sort of falls on top of her opponent and allows herself to be sort of tied up and negated. So yeah, but again, flawless performance by Shanika, and she by those belts. And yeah, I mean, at that weight, she's quite the possibility to do it. So really, really good performance by Shanika Johnson, and again, just put that to the first fight to bed as far as who was the superior fighter. Then we got on to another very, very predictable fight. Teramona Jr. with a first round knockout of James King. I think I said it'd go about a minute and a half. While I was wrong, it went about 2.5 minutes. But it was just an embarrassing fight. And look, I know they're having trouble getting Teramona fights. I understand that. But surely when you've got 8, 9, 10 weeks to get this show organised, you can find someone a little bit better. Eddie Hearn did say after the fight they just can't be decent. But look, if you've got to do this for Teramona, you're better off just pulling him from a card like this and taking him and putting him on a card overseas, and so you can get someone that will fight him. I know they don't want to spend the money and fly people in from all over the world when they're trying to build his record up. They just want some easy kills at the moment, but when you're relying on guys from Fiji, and I mean, it's not a good look. And I know, like Eddie actually did say he told Teramona to maybe just take his time and you know, get some rounds, but how do you tell that to a fighter? You can't. So when they're in fight mode. So he got him out of there. He did wear a couple of right hands though, didn't he? But he didn't even flinch, which goes to show. As soon as I think Singh landed that right hand, and it was probably his best shot early in the round, and Terramona literally, it reminded me of that movie, of the movie, Terminator 2. Remember it when the Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger's in the hospital, and the doctor or whatever it is, the nurse or whatever it is, in the hospital, the Sheila, whacks him across. You got to look at his face like, why did you do that for? And he went boom. Terramona just for a split second just sort of stopped, looked, and said, "All right, now it's my turn." And it was all over. As soon as he landed that right hand, it didn't even make him flinch. I thought, well, this is not going to end well, and it didn't. So, but again, I understand they can't get fights for him here, but take him over to England, take him wherever, put him on a card over there, and get him a local. You know, surely. I mean, they're probably paying guys like Singh extra money to come and fight anyway. So spend that money on taking Terramona over to a card over. I mean, they do a cards on every bloody weekend. I'm sure they can find the cards and get on. But anyway, it's predictable, but it shouldn't happen. Like the Ahio fight, should not happen. But anyway, then we got into the co-main and big upset. Tiara Brown with the 10-round decision, split decision win over Sky Nicholson. Now, this was a controversial fight because a lot of people are saying that Sky Nicholson won the fight. I just think it could have gone either way. I really do. It was a very competitive fight, a very scrappy fight, a sloppy fight. The official scores, by the way, were 96-94 for Brown. That was Phil Austin. 97-93 for Brown. That was Robert Bridges. And Nobutu Akihira had Sky Nicholson ahead 96-94. So look, I thought it could have gone either way. My initial thoughts were maybe that Brown won 96-94, so 6 rounds to 4. I thought a draw might have been even on the card, but look, I wasn't impressed with either girl, if I'm being honest. It was, as I said, it was a scrappy fight. You had Tiara Brown, who obviously talked the tough, and she was trying to push the pace, don't get me wrong, but she was just ineffective. Just plodding around, sort of going after Sky. Her punches were slow. For someone that had 11 knockouts, there wasn't really any pop in her punches. I just thought she was a pretty happy fighter. I've seen her in a few of the fights on YouTube, and she fought inferior opposition, so always hard to gauge. But Sky, for someone that looked so good in a lot of her fights, it was amazing what happened when you had an opponent, even though, again, I wasn't that impressed with Tiara Brown, just someone that could close the distance and make her engage. I was surprised at how average Sky Nicholson looked as well. Just clinching and holding, and those little hooks that she's been sort of renowned for. Tiara Brown obviously did her homework and was looking for that. She was making her move to the left, which I've always said with Sky, to have a chance of beating her, you've got to stop her from spinning off to the right. She does it every time. Jab, 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 and a little hook, and she's off to the side. And I thought Brown did a really good job of cutting her off and making her move to Sky's left. So that was really good by Tiara Brown. But I just thought she's laboured around after Sky. I don't think I really saw a half-decent punch land in the fight, the whole fight, if I'm being honest. I think you had Tiara Brown sort of hunting her down, if you want to call it that, but not really having any impact on Sky. A few body shots inside, I suppose. Sky looking to keep her range and pot shot her from a distance, but not really having any success either. It was just a weird fight, it really was. And I think at the end of the day, the judges at ringside looking at a reason to score a fight for either girl, I think it came down to, all right, well, let's give it to the aggressor. I think it's 97-93 was way off the mark, by the way. There's no way Tiara Brown won 7 out of the 10. But again, maybe this judge at ringside, I think, who did I say that was, I'm not sure if he was American or whatever, but 7 rounds to 3, I mean, you've got to look for a reason to give these fighters rounds. And Sky was not, in my opinion, not giving the judges any reason to say, yep, okay, that's another round for Sky. Because she looked okay early, but when Brown sort of closed the gap, closed the distance, and started to bang a little bit to the body. It was just a wrestle. One fighter who doesn't like to engage trying to gate another fighter who is trying to engage but not doing it effectively. So yeah, not a great fight. But congratulations to Tiara Brown. I didn't think they were going to give it to her. I thought it was close enough, hometown, all the rest of it. Sky's obviously the golden girl. I didn't expect them to give it to Tiara Brown. When they said split decision, well, they gave, I think the first scorecard was to Sky, the second one was to Tiara, and then the third one. And David Diamante gave it away pretty quick. Before he even announced it, he sort of pointed at Tiara Brown and said, and that no. So good on Tiara Brown. You know, she came out, she talked it up, and she backed it up, more importantly. So good on her. But Sky's got some work to do. She's not going to make it at that or stay at that top level if she continues to fight like that, because it's pretty easy with the blueprint to see how to beat her. It's simply really put the pressure on her, really tie her up, and really make life hard for her. Getting in tight, bang to the body, bang to the head, rough her up. And Sky just didn't have an answer to it, or to that game plan. And until she gets an answer, if she can get an answer, I mean, she's going to struggle. Fortunately, there's not that many other good girls around at that weight, so maybe she'll get another crack at either Tiara Brown or another champion. But geez, based on that, please stay away from someone like Amanda Serrano. You thought Tiara Brown was tough, as Apollo Creed says to Rocky. You thought she was tough. Amanda Serrano will kill you. That's the way I view it anyway. I think the way that Tiara Brown was able to get Sky Nicholson, I think Amanda Serrano would stop Sky in 4 or 5 rounds. That's how dominant I think she would be. Oh man. So anyway, again, good luck to Tiara Brown and Sky Nicholson with some work to do to try and get that belt back. Then we get into the main event, and George Kambosos, Jake Whyllie. Look, I thought for the first 3 or 4 rounds, thought, geez, wow, George, geez, he looks good. He looks really good. Jake really struggled with the tempo a little bit of the early rounds. Struggled to really land. He was trying his best. I really liked the way he went out there and stood centre ring and said to George, all right, let's go. I liked it. But George, he looked slick. He looked fast. He looked sharp. And I thought he looked really good for the first 4 or 5 rounds. But it was interesting. I expected Jake Whyllie to sort of fade a little bit on a week's notice. I know he was in training, but I just was a little bit worried about his fatigue sort of going forward. But as each round went on, he got stronger, didn't he? And he started to find the range, started to grow in confidence. Then of course George was cut, and everything sort of changed. And after that, I think the whole fight. I think George obviously won clearly. Actually, the official scorecards, if I can bring that up, I'll just bring up the scores. The official scores: 117, 111, 115, 113, 117, 111. So look, maybe you could have found another round or so for Jake Whyllie, but I think, what's that, 9 rounds for 3? I think maybe 8 rounds for 4 was probably fair for me. The other judge had it 7 rounds for 5, but I would have thought 8 rounds for 4. I think what happened when the cut happened on George, I think he went into a little bit of preservation mode. I think that's why we found him sort of taper off a little bit. Jake Whyllie sort of come on a lot more. As soon as he saw blood, Jake Whyllie, you could see thinking, this is my chance. And he went for it. And George, to his credit, even though he would have been thinking, geez, his fight with Hitchens is now in jeopardy, you can see he sort of, as I said, went into self-preservation mode, boxed from a distance, boxed a lot more cautiously, because he would have thought wouldn't have been able to see the cut. He could just feel it. He did say in the press conference that he thought it might have been a Tim Tszyu situation. Luckily, it wasn't that bad, but I thought he just boxed through. It's probably the best I've seen George fight since his win over Teofimo Lopez. And I know Jake Whylie's not Teofimo Lopez, but it's just the styles for George. George is going to look good against particular styles. Of course, Haney and Lomachenko, totally wrong for George, because both of those guys, the counter punches, very slick, very precise, and he really struggled against those fighters. And then with Maxie Hughes, that he was sort of the Timu version of those guys, because he was moving, he was slick, he was fast, he was cagey. George just couldn't get hold of him and really struggles with those type of fighters. Last night with Whyllie being a guy that's actually coming towards him, not super fast with his hands, Jake, just sort of a guy that likes to come forward and mix it up. I think that really helped George's situation, and I think the way George looks really depends on that opponent. Having said that, I mean, guys like Haney and Loma and those types of guys, everyone struggles against them, but I just think with George it comes down to the styles, and this is the only thing that worries me about the Hitchens fight, is that Hitchens is like that as well. Rangy, boxer, fast with his hands, very, very good skills. This is what worries me about that fight. Having said that, Hitchens is not Haney or Lomachenko either, so that gives him an opportunity. But look, I thought it was a good performance from George. He did what he had to do. You got to remember, he only had 5 days as well to prepare for Whyllie, like the other way around. So I thought he did what he had to do in the situation. Yeah, he would have liked maybe a highlight reel sort of stoppage or whatever, but I thought, again, after looking really good for those first few rounds, he had the middle rounds where he had to really reassess and maybe change his style a little bit because of what had happened to his cut. You've got to remember, to the fight with Hitchens looked like it's going to be the 21st of June, 13 weeks away. So he would have been thinking, shit, I've got to save. He doesn't know what the cut's like. I've got to save myself here, and then went into sort of defensive mode a bit, and that of course made Jake Whyllie a little bit more confident, and that's what made the fight a little bit more competitive. I never thought that Jake was a chance to win the fight, even as the fight went on. I just thought it was just one of those fights where the A side just did what they had to do to get the win. He's got a lot bigger fish to fry later in the year, in 13 weeks' time. So I can totally get that he just went to 12 rounds, got through it. I hadn't fought for nearly a year, so I totally welcome George Kambosos' style last night and the way he went about it. And credit to Jake Whyllie, he's got himself a contract with Matchroom, which is fantastic. Good on Eddie Hearn. He said in the ring afterwards, Monday morning you'll have a contract offer. They need content out here, and what better type of young kid do they want than Jake Whyllie. So good on him. Got a good payday as well, which is fantastic, and he's now known. So good on him, and let's hope he can go a little bit further and get some big fights for some other cards. And as for George, as I said, he will just be thankful to get through and get that opportunity against Hitchens, and the rest is up to him. What's going to be difficult for George, though, is that he normally fights once a year. Now he's got to back up in 13 weeks' time. How's he going to do that? It's going to be interesting. So that's probably the next challenge for him. So I'm sure he'll do it though. And one last thing that was interesting that was said with Eddie Hearn before the press conference, or before George actually got there, was he reckons Australian fighters are paid embarrassing purses. So he wants to try and fix that. So yeah, not good when he said he looked at Jake Whylie's contract, and it was a shocking purse he was getting for his fight with Joel Taylor. That would have made the boys at No Limit feel good. Gives them a real good endorsement, doesn't it? But maybe they won't be as accommodating next time when he needs a favour to release one of their fighters to fight George. But anyway, it was all in good fun anyway. But look, guys, that's my review. Give me your thoughts down below. Again, I thought it was a good performance from George, but he'll need to be better against Hitchens, and I'm sure he will. So anyway, guys, have a good Sunday. Talk to you tomorrow.